Recruiting rock stars, and I truly do have a rock star today.
Oh,
This is
no.
Mike Chudian. Yeah, no, you're a humble guy, but I'm gonna say Mike is the co-host of Bullion and Brews, and one of the most well-known sourcers in the sourcing community. He's given a lot back to the community, and I just have to say thanks for all you've done. I'm excited to get this conversation started. Do you want to share a little bit more about your history? How long you've
Yeah,
been
dude, let's
recruiting,
go.
and
I feel like I'm on a job interview or something, man. I hate job interviews. Thank
no,
you,
just
Mike.
give them your bios.
Yeah, no, hey,
Short and
listen,
sweet if you want.
I really appreciate the the nice things that you just mentioned about me. Listen, I'm super humbled just because one of the reasons why I started Bullions and Brews too was because I wanted to give back to the community in some way, because there's just not, like, you see all of these people, our peers, getting laid off, and you want to do everything you can to help them.
Right.
And I feel like this was a platform that I that we're able to do that, right? And so, and
For
then
sure.
and now, like, we've given back to the community, 2 SourceCon virtual tickets that we've been able to give away through the community, so it's pretty cool. But I appreciate the nice things, Mike. It's very, very humbling. I've been in this business for 17 years. Started out as a full desk agency recruiter, and then worked my way up into full cycle corporate recruiter. And then back in 2014 is when I said, that's it, I'm doing sourcing full time, and I've been doing it ever since. So I've worked for some pretty big companies. Sears, obviously. Sears, wow, that's a ancient name. So Sears, Lowe's, Walmart Labs, Uber, and now I'm at ServiceNow, and I love it. And man, I truly one of the best companies I've ever worked for in my career. So I'm super, super fortunate to be working for them, and kind of leading the sourcing for our AI teams. And that's kind of my
Wow.
sweet spot is machine learning, data science, AI. That's kind of what my sweet spot is, and I've been doing that since 2015. So, I've been at it for a while, putting these types of teams together. Um, but yeah, spoken at SourceCon, I don't know, 5 times, 6 times ish. Keynoted a couple times. Have been at a couple of other conferences that I've spoken at as well. And yeah, I got my start in speaking. 2016 was my first SourceCon that I ever spoke at. And shout out to your previous guest, Aaron Lintz,
Yeah.
who at the time, before my first time presenting at SourceCon, he came up to me one day, and he's like, it was like, I think it was Denver SourceCon or Dallas SourceCon. He came up to me and he's like, listen, here's the deal. Like, you're going to be up on that stage one of these days. I guarantee you. And lo and behold, 2 years later, I was on stage, SourceCon, and that was in California, which was a great homecoming for me because I'm from California. So it was awesome. It was awesome. Shout out to you, Aaron Lintz. We're
Yeah.
gonna have you
Awesome.
on our show too, man. So let's go.
Yeah, it should be fun. That was a really good session with him. So yeah, let's talk about AI. I mean, if you're recruiting for AI
Yeah.
specifically, what's your thoughts with recruiting in AI?
Oh yeah, man. It's such a hot debate right now. Is AI going to take people's jobs? Is it going to take over recruiting more specifically? Right. My thoughts on that is AI is good if it's utilized correctly, if it's utilized for the good and not to be malicious. I think AI in recruitment is going to be uh well, I mean, AI in recruitment in terms of doing mundane tasks is already here. I use Chat GPT on practically a daily basis to help me with specific tasks when I'm just, if I want to be more efficient in my job, I use Chat GPT to help me with those tasks. Do I think it's going to take recruiters' jobs? No, I don't think so, because um, I think there's this human element to recruitment that will and can never be replaced. Um,
So
you
true.
know, because I just feel like it just feels really weird, like even ChatGPT, right? Because they're spitting out, like you enter in a prompt and they're spitting out like, damn, like this sounds like it's coming from someone, who's actually human, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's really, really wild. But I just think we're not there yet, in terms of the emotion and feeling that, um, seeing the facial expressions and the context, the tone, I don't think that's ever going to be there. That can never, ever be replaced. Like AI can never replace that, right?
Yeah, totally
Like
agree.
this. Yeah. So I
And
feel like,
even the empathy, even the
yes,
empathy.
even the empathy part, which is really, really important, right? So I
Yep.
just feel like that's something that, I don't think AI is going to take over recruitment nor sourcing. Now, can it do, it's already doing things that we're already used to, like your seek outs and your hire tools and all these other, these great platforms that, you know that are spitting out, you know large amounts of data on candidates that we're looking for. um and those tools are great. um Tools are awesome. They're only as good as the person who's using them, I feel. I don't think there's any tool out there that's going to help you. If you don't know how to optimize that tool's going to be useless for you.
Yeah, for
You can
sure.
ask Glenn Cathy, you can ask Dean, you can ask Steve. They'll tell you the same thing. So really, tools are nice, but you got to know how to use them. So
Yeah, that's a great truth. And, it's interesting just as we're talking through that earlier today, my conversation, which is going out today, our conversation will go out tomorrow. But what's really cool is I was talking to the CHRO, former CHRO, who's also now an advisory board member of Seek Out
yeah.
at ADP. He was, former CHRO there, and then later the chief transformation officer. So
Hmm. Hmm.
just
Hmm.
some really great insight on that call today. And you were talking about this humanity in recruiting and the humanity focus in which, let's just say it as it is. Recruiting is leadership. And whether or not you know it, you are a leader in your organization when you bring talent to the table.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who don't see recruiting in that way. They just think of it as a cost center. They just think of it as a place where,
Hmm.
an expense. But you know how it's so important now. The human element in recruiting is a key component for our success, and it will be in the future as well. And that's why AI can't completely replace human beings.
Right.
As much as, see, what I do see happening is it's going to enhance our jobs. It's going to make us better recruiters for sure. And why wouldn't you harness that technology? Harness it
100%.
to help you do your job. Have it help you write job descriptions, have it help you write
Yes.
candidate reach outs,
Yes.
but then
Yes.
you need to go and tailor it to the need that exists. It can help you get started, which is
Yes.
great, and it saves some
100%.
time.
That's
But
exactly why
that's
I
that's
use
how
it.
I use it. I mean,
Yeah.
in that way.
I-
So
I'll tell you, I am a self-proclaimed horrible note taker. I am not good at taking notes. Was never ever good at taking notes. It's because of my ADD. That's cool. But with GPT, um, I leverage it. The way I leverage it is I leverage it on candidate calls that I have, every day. And, there's nothing like being able to have Microsoft Word up, use the dictation function on that, right?
mhm,
And be able to automatically dictate the answers that a candidate is spitting out. It's, and it's laid out there for you, you know,
remarkable.
and then
What a great insight. Yeah.
taking those notes that were dictated in Word, right? Copying that, pasting it into Chat GPT, and say, summarize this for me in bullet points or a paragraph or whatever. And it does it. And so for me, the painful thing for me every day is like, all right, how do I do this write up before I send it over to the business, right? For a candidate. And I always like, I don't know why, like I always like have this hesitation, and it's just like so painstaking for me. It was so painstaking for me to write that up. But now that I have dictation, now that I have GPT, I can take that and then, analyze whatever they spit out, and then, okay, I want to tailor this, tailor this, tailor this. Okay, I'm good. Boom, done. Literally 5 minutes. Like I don't have to worry about it anymore. Like I don't have to worry about, like I can actually intently listen to a candidate of what they're saying, and more. I've found that because I'm able to listen and not have to take notes because it's already being dictated, then I'm like, dude, like I'm like, I can actually retain it better because I'm actually listening instead of like taking notes, and trying to concentrate on two things, right? So it's great. Yeah.
Well, and great leaders listen. I mean, I think the remarkable truth is the better we get at listening as recruiters and listening for cues and information, there's a psychology about what we do that we don't often think about. Like we're kind of doing it every day, but just, if you're not a recruiter and you're listening to this conversation, my greatest advice to you would be really focus on listening. And it's interesting, this year, I've become a better listener by de facto working in agency side recruiting. It's a very strange reality. Like I've always been a fairly, I focus, I'm a good listener, but there are times, when we're looking at our phone and the person in front of you is talking at you and you're distracted.
Yeah.
Put the phone away, put it to the side, and really focus on the conversation.
Focus on the conversation.
And one of my mentors that I really love at my company right now that I'm working with, he basically said, and I'm not going to say his name because I don't know if he is okay with shout outs or not, but I'm just going to say, hey, one of the guys I'm working with who really helps me out, he basically said, focus on the conversation at hand and you will be a better recruiter, and focus on every conversation that way. Really, really lean into the listening, focus on the person, focus on the other individual. Wow, what a difference that has made.
I mean, listen,
it's so amazing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a godsend that I have to use my iPhone for our podcast because I don't have to be looking down at my phone. You know what I mean? Like I'm concentrating on Susanna and Carrie on the screen, and so that's it's good.
Well, it's interesting. You're mentioning some of the tools you use. So at my company, we use a tool called Hone It.
And I am very familiar with Hone It.
So Hone It's cool because you record the candidate's thoughts,
right?
And before Hone It, I'd be doing what you'd be doing. I'd be kind of taking notes and trying to focus on the candidate.
Yeah.
But it's interesting now that I record it, I can really listen to what the candidate's saying, and I can listen to it a second time,
right?
And it actually imprints so much better. And then I better understand that candidate, and even my client can listen to what the candidate is saying, and it's such a powerful tool because not only is it transcribing for you and it's giving you the insight from the candidate's background and what they're passionate about.
Yeah,
it just helps me be a better listener. So I've just been amazed.
100%.
This has been the year 2023 of like active listening.
Yeah, it really has. It really has. That's a great call out because, I mean, for the longest time I was trying to get my damn dictation to work on my Microsoft Word, and then all of a sudden just started working, and I was like, oh shit, it is on now, because now I don't have to like take notes. I could just sit and listen intently to the conversation, listen intently to the candidate. And you're right. I'm able to retain it better, like, because I'm actually listening intently rather than trying to furiously write down notes, because I let Word do all that. So
one question for you. What do you think about video in recruiting, and what are some creative ways?
Yeah, I think it's good. I mean, listen, I I do it to this day. Like, I give, like, when I send my Calendly link out, I give the candidate an option to either have a Zoom call or a phone call. So I would say that half choose the Zoom, and it's good. Now there are times when I don't feel like being on camera, and that's fine. But like when I am on camera, I make sure that my background is clean, it's not messy, it's so for me it's all about the presentation and
Sure.
but I think it's also good to kind of see the body language too, like
Yeah,
the body
absolutely.
language, the facial expressions, what that would I'm looking for the vibe. Like I was talking to a candidate today, like, and I don't know, maybe some people are just like this, but super, super flat, right? Super flat. And I'm just like, damn, like, I don't know if I could crack a smile off off this person, you know what I mean? And so, and typically, when I'm doing calls, like I'm super like energetic, super like positive thing,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, and keeping that positivity in your calls is so incredible. Like I'm almost tempted to try something that I've never done before. I'm almost like I want to go on Loom and record like what I call like a job in a pod, so like
Yeah.
a quick summary. So like with Honeit you can do this. Like you can get on a call with your hiring manager and you can actually
Yeah.
record them explaining what the job is and how it
Yeah.
works and then use that to sell the job. I was thinking it'd be kind of fun to do that myself. Like sometimes I could send a video intro to a candidate and try to personalize it, like a 30-second
All
thing.
right.
And even then I could say, hey, you may be looking at this for the first
Yeah,
time.
I haven't used video in that
I'd be curious to see. I mean,
context.
I think I've heard of a couple recruiters who do it and they have great success doing it.
Yeah.
Like they differentiate, you know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
one of the hardest things we have to do and other things like emojis. I don't know if you remember Marcel Vandeveer's
Oh yeah.
presentation, and he was talking about his call to action. And
Yeah.
I kept thinking about all that stuff that he talked about, just the human
Yeah.
psychology of the reach outs
Yep.
that we do.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll get into this mode, hey, we're just sending out a job description or just
Yeah.
a quick link because we
Yep.
don't want to be too long-winded, but sometimes you have to go the extra mile to really personalize it for that candidate and really put in the effort to hey, I noticed this about you or I saw this about you.
Yeah.
And you're almost trying, I mean, you're trying to increase the humanity of your engagement, but those intros we don't always think about, you know what I mean?
That's right.
it's
That's
just
right.
it's a constant battle to get better
Yeah,
at that.
it is. It is a real constant battle. Shout out to Marcel Vandermeer, man. I met him for the first time at SourceCon in Dallas, man. And what a
Me too. What a
nice guy.
great dude. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
he's awesome.
that presentation was like inspiring for that
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for job seekers right now, man?
Oh, dude. Listen, here's
what
a
about this market?
yeah, listen, I think if you're on LinkedIn, you got an office job, man, networking is probably the number one thing. Build your network, build your brand. Um, you know, but what about the ones that haven't built their brand or have a network, right? Like, the advice that I have for job seekers is don't just apply to job postings, because when you've got 2,000 applicants, right? You got 1,000 applicants for one role. You have to understand the numbers. That number, it's big. And all the recruiters that I know are just they're not gonna take the time to look at everybody's resume. So you have to
It's
find
just
a
too
way.
much volume. It's so hard to do.
Yeah, it's just too much, right? So you have to find a way to get to that recruiter. Find out who that recruiter is for that particular role that you're targeting. And so if you can do that, and I've been helping a good friend of mine who actually was the designer of my Bullion and Bruise logo.
Really?
Shout out, yeah,
So
shout out
cool.
to Lloyd Bandanillo. My man is still looking for a job. So and this guy has dope credentials. Was at Mattel for like 10 or 11 years as a creative
Wow.
director there, and then was at Razor, Razor scooters.
Oh
He
yeah,
was
yeah,
there
yeah.
for a
Cool.
good 4 or 5 years or something like that. So Yeah. So anyways, I'm helping him, and you know, I think for job seekers, it's really going to come down to how you're approaching. You have to approach it like a job, right? And you have to come up with a strategy to get in front of people. And you're not going to do that by just applying to a role. You have to reach out directly to that recruiter if you can find out who that recruiter is.
Yeah.
And that sometimes is sourcers can do that better than someone who's maybe an accountant or like a marketing, person. So,
well, let's just so for people who don't know, and my audience has a kind of a cross wind to it. I've got gig workers that watch this stuff. I've got recruiters. I've got HR people.
What's a gig worker? Like
delivery people who do delivery or drive for Uber or Lyft.
Got it. Got it. Gig worker.
Yeah. So
does that have anything to do with
food delivery, man?
Like
it's like Uber Eats, DoorDash.
Gig economy. Like when they talk about
that's it.
Gig,
you got it. That's it.
Really?
Yep.
So that's what it means. I never really looked it up, but I'm like, what the heck is a gig economy? Like what? Huh?
Yeah. Well, because it's a gig, it's something that you go and do from.
Oh, I gotcha.
So some other gig apps that you might be familiar with. There's Rover. You can go babysit dogs. That's a gig.
Yeah.
Other ones are, let's see, what other ones are there? There's Neighbor, where Neighbor is a really cool thing in Utah, but it's gaining steam. You might see it soon.
Yeah.
It's basically you rent out. It's like Airbnb for, storing something. So Airbnbs are considered gig economy stuff.
Are they really? Oh wow, damn. Yo, if anybody need a gig dude, hit me up, bro. I'm looking to make an extra $2,000-3,000 a month.
Well, seriously,
this inflation got me messed up, man. Let me tell you, dude. Like
that's why I do it. That's why I do it. You know. So,
I mean, I need to get something, man. Dude, listen, I'm making
many amazing things you can do with gig stuff, man.
I'm sure.
It's amazing.
Yeah, no, man. I'm making a lot of money, but I got to feed 7 heads, so like I have a big family. Wife, 5 kids. It gets expensive. Groceries are crazy. Inflation is really wild,
it's doing
man.
a number on everybody right now.
It is. It really is, man. And it's really eating into my income, where I should be doing I should have extra vacations, but I can't because I'm faced with higher food prices, higher gas prices, higher everything pretty much. So.
Well, and this is one thing that, this is why I started a YouTube channel, was I eventually hope to monetize mine. There'll come a time when that happens. Steadily, my audience is growing, and you'll might get there with Bullion and Bruce. Who knows? Maybe you guys will have monetization.
Yeah.
So
listen, it would be nice, but that's not. I don't think that's my.
It's not our core, driver. The reason I create content is the same for you. You want to help people and you want to give people hope. And I think, my driver is exactly that. These conversations, getting good people on that I know who are leaders and mentors and have seen practical wisdom of dealing with really human issues. That's the core of my channel. That's essentially what it's all about. And that's what Bullion and Brews is about. Although yours is more tailored to the recruiting community. Mine's kind of an all-encompassing kind of channel.
And I love that.
But so I'm learning as I go, and I'm having a lot of fun. I'm here sitting at 62 subscribers. You're at 100, 200 now?
At 208.
Good job, man. And you've only had 6 shows, which is truly remarkable. So yeah, I mean the content creation journey, let's talk about that for a minute. What's that been like for you?
So listen, Carrie came to me earlier this year and said, "Hey, you know what? You should start a podcast. I think you'd be great." I was like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, it sounds like fun, but I mean, who's gonna watch me? Like, I could talk about I don't know. There's a whole bunch of things I have interest in. I collect sneakers, as you could see, and
that's really cool, by the way.
I love I love Star Wars. I don't know. I'm a whatever interests me kind of guy, but but kind of going back to this whole thing starting the podcast, like I was just like, all right, yeah, let's do it. It sounds like fun. And I said, let's bring Susanna in because I think she would be great. And the synergy between the three of us is awesome. Like I couldn't
It is
have asked.
funny.
Yeah, yeah.
It
It
is
just
hilarious. It
yeah,
is entertaining. It's
yeah,
like made for TV recruiting.
yeah. And so like I appreciate that, Mike. Like so and my thing is I just wanted to have fun, but the main premise of the show was to be able to to have people come on and tell stories or us tell stories that everyday people can relate to, you know. Obviously we're bringing on people from the talent acquisition community. But then we also talk about other stuff, you know what I mean? Like it's not just
Right.
recruitment. Like we talk about real world type stuff. We talk about our family, we talk about what we did over the weekend and things like that. And so I just I just wanted to relate to the people as much as possible. And along the way, with bullying is sexy, and then, us sharing some techniques or methods that we use in our everyday work. It just takes that one little spark to be like, oh shit, like I heard Mike or Susanna or Carrie say this on the show. And it's helped me tremendously in my day-to-day work or whatever it may be. So but the content part, we structured it, and we structured it in a sense where we would spend about 5 minutes on what we're drinking, whatever beer, and then we'll spend another
Which is awesome.
yeah 10 15 minutes on like TA
I don't
news.
drink, but hey, I
Yeah,
drink Mormon beer.
sure. Hey, listen, and brews can mean anything. Like it can mean beers, it can mean coffee, it can mean tea.
Right. Right.
So listen, you
Ginger
want to bring,
ale.
yeah, exactly.
I
You want to
love
bring,
ginger ale.
yeah. So you want to bring your you want to bring your chai tea latte, whatever, go for it, man. Like, but listen, you want to bring water? I don't care. You can drink. Listen, I don't care if you bring a double Western bacon cheeseburger to the show and start eating it on the show.
Well,
Like,
I'm
I'm good
drinking
with
my
it.
Burger King here, so
Yeah, I love it. See, I mean, yeah, you want to bring a Whopper on the show? Hell yeah, let's do it. Like, I don't like. I'm not gonna be like, yo, do your thing, bro. Like, let's have a like.
so
This is, yeah,
so let's have some fun talking nerd, can we?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So in our we always joke as sourcers, right? We always joke, hey, we're nerds, but
yeah.
being nerdy is cool. So it's like talk about Boolean, man. Talk about how we actually do the. See, there's
Oh
some
man,
folks who may cross in here and see some of the dialogue and wonder what in the heck are they talking about when they talk about sourcing. So
yeah,
like what does that entail? What is that finding science of finding candidates and bringing them to the table? It's also part of getting them going out and finding the folks and then
yeah,
getting them to the table to talk about a job. What
yeah.
does that whole process look like for you?
Um, so I typically have like a 12-step cycle that I've adapted, and I have adapted for years. And that was from, Shally. Shout out to Shally. He actually gave me a scholarship to the Sourcing Institute, and really was kind of the thing that kind of took my career to another level. But anyways, as far as the process goes, for me, where it starts is really understanding the role that you're sourcing for,
Right.
having a really good understanding of that. In my case, it's tech, so I know tech inside and out.
Mhm.
Software engineering, machine learning, SREs, database, data engineering. I know it. I know it inside and out. So I have a really good feel for the technologies that go along for those different, verticals within technology. But it's really about finding out the implicit things, right, that a hiring manager is looking for. Um, so, if I'm doing a search, and my search, I don't just go to like, I don't start sourcing on Reddit. Like that's not, I'll start sourcing from the database, and then I'll work my way to LinkedIn. And then from LinkedIn, then I'll start venturing out to your like Google Scholar, your GitHubs, your Kaggles. Those are kind of where I live in those platforms. But the main thing about my search iterations is that it's constantly evolving, right? So, some people like to start off with a really crazy Boolean string. I don't. I like to start broad. Because once I start broad, then I could start sharpening the knife, right? I could start sharpening the axe and start chipping away at the little things, right? So there's several iterations of search that I have to go through in order for me to get to right where that sweet spot is, of where I find a good set of results, whether that's on LinkedIn, whether it's on Google, in the database, what have you, right? So it's really the process of eliminating false positives. But I think for the most part, I use Boolean every single day, because it's just part of my how I search right now. When I do Boolean, they will be more or less or statements and statements, in LinkedIn. And I'm really particular about syntax too. I'm kind of a syntax nerd where people
the
are.
way it's said. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like, for example, like you don't have, like, when you're doing an or statement, you don't have to put in quotation marks one word, right? So if you're going to do software or programming, right? You don't have to put quotation marks around those single word. It's just because the algorithm is recognizing that, we already know it's a single word. But when you have two or more, you have to put those in quotation marks, because what happens is the algorithm will recognize, okay, well, they didn't have like software engineer in quotation marks, so I'm going to look for software, I'm going to look for engineers. Then you get all these results that are just crazy, and they're, you got mechanical engineers, you got civil engineers, and so your results. So that's kind of where that is. But still love using the in titles and the in URLs and the file types, and there's nesting, there's double nesting, all that stuff. How often do I use it? I'll only use it in specific, I'll only use it in specific times. But for the most part, and the ones that I use are and or statements, and also eliminating those false positives, like, minus job, minus jobs, things like that if I'm doing a Google search. Also have to think about kind of implicit words if you're doing a search, like let's say you're doing in my case, machine learning engineering, right? So machine learning, there's just a lot of things.
There's a lot of synonyms
in there, right? And a
the
lot
way
of
the wording is said.
Yeah, and
so
they're
just to define real quick, I'm going to just kind of simplify. Yeah. I think just so for an audience who may be unfamiliar with some of this terminology, if you're interested in this concept and you're talking through the search that we're talking about, what Mike is talking about is something called a string, and we set it up with various search terms. And so there's different commands that you can use in Google to find information. And so if you were ever like a reference librarian, you'd know this. You'd be very familiar with this from that perspective. But basically what we're doing is we're constructing what we call a string, and it basically has several search terms. So say you go to Google, you put in phrase reading diary, just something stupid. You put it in quotations and you just wanted something about a reading diary. It would pull up all these results. Now, if you're looking for candidates, you're going to find them in all sorts of different places, like GitHub. That's where programmers go, like he's talking about. You would use a command called cite. with the
colon,
2 dots, colon, that's what it's called.
site colon, github.com.
github.com. And then you'd put in profile or about me in a something like
or
this,
user. Yep.
or user. And then it would pull up a bunch of people who are on there, and you could even drill down by skills. So say it was like JavaScript or Java, one of the programming languages. Again, GitHub is one of those places that we go to find candidates because that's where they put all their projects that they've been working on. So
Yep.
just that's a simplified explanation, but basically what Mike's talking about is how we search. It's just the science of search. And if you go to another earlier video with Aaron Lintz and you look at the last half of that video, Aaron was doing his what we call his wizardry and his sorcery, and he was actually on there putting stuff together real time. And I was just quizzing him on what to do, and he was sharing what it looks like on a screen. So if you're interested in that, go check out that content. It's the last half of that vid. But you might keep going. Sorry, I interrupted you. It was just quick explanation to simplify for the non-recruiting audience that might
right.
come.
Yeah. So I feel like when we're doing searches, it's always evolving, right? There's never us as sourcers. We're always trying to solve a problem, right?
Right.
I mentioned this in my keynote in Atlanta at SourceCon, that I said that Boolean syntax is basically our programming. It's a sourcer's programming language, and this is how we solve problems. And so sourcers, in a way, are like the software engineers of talent acquisition. Very because cool. We do things
like that analogy
unconventionally. Right?
We do.
And we go into rabbit holes, Mike. You know this. We go into rabbit holes that recruiters just they don't have time to do it either. So I get it. But our job is to,
unless you're a sourcing recruiter,
unless you're sourcing a recruiter, yes, absolutely. But our job, a lot of
us too.
Yeah, our job is to be able to solve problems, and we solve those problems through critical thinking, which is really, really important. Because if you can't, and logic, and if you can't critically think through specific problems that you're trying to solve from a sourcing perspective and a search iteration perspective, you'll hit a wall. I've hit many walls before. I've had sourcer's block. That's what I call it. Sourcer's block, where I'm just like,
it's like the entrepreneur's block, where if you want to speak. Yeah. So in a sense, think of sourcing as the entrepreneurial side of talent acquisition from the standpoint of going out and engineering the search process of finding a candidate and bringing them into an organization. That's what we do. Yeah. And so it's interesting how it's still misunderstood though. Like even the sourcing side of things, I think it's a fairly new function almost. Like it's almost like employment branding. Like employment branding is way brand new, much newer than sourcing.
Yeah.
But it's like it's always been there, but the sourcing role has continued to evolve.
It's always been in the background. Like, I can relate, bro, because it's kind of like DJs being in the background for a rapper. The rapper will rap, the DJ will in the background. So we were all in the background. And I feel like that's kind of how sourcing is. It's kind of like we're in the background, and like the companies who have sourcers but don't have a sourcing function, that's a tough position to be in, because there's no buy-in, there's no championing of sourcing. Mm-hmm. That's why I feel like if you are a sourcer, find a place that has a true sourcing function. Because if you don't, and you're you're at a company that doesn't champion sourcing, it's not going to be fun. Because there's just no, right. So there's no pushback as to like why we do things, how we do things like that. I've been fortunate enough for the companies that I've worked for that we've had true sourcing functions, like really, really well-run functions. Shout out to ABQ, Amy Beth Quinn, my former boss. And shout out to
Oh,
my
you're
bosses
lucky.
right now.
You're lucky to work for her, man.
Oh
That's
my
awesome.
gosh, man, it was
What a wonderful human being.
yeah, she's
She's
awesome, man.
incredible.
I
Yeah.
love her. I love her.
Founder of the Source, one of the founders of Sourcing
Yeah,
7, and
yeah,
just an absolute brilliant
yeah,
talent acquisition mind.
100%.
Just so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Are there any other shout outs, or are there anything else you want to talk about? Like, do you have any advice out there for folks in this economy? You know, what's
oof.
advice you want to offer just
Listen,
for everybody in
for
general
all the
that's out there?
yeah, for all the recruiters out there like trying to look for a job, um, if you aren't okay, let me put it this way. If you have been in the tech industry, recruiting in the tech industry, it's going to be particularly tough to transition into different verticals. I'll tell you why. Because let's just say, you're a recruiter, you got laid off at Amazon, now you're on the job market, you're trying to, apply for a non-tech role, non-tech company. It's really, really, really tough for people, recruiters, talent acquisition coming out of tech to go into another industry because HR, the recruiters for those particular verticals are going to be like, oh, this person came from Salesforce, or this person came from Amazon. They're getting paid a lot of money. They're not going to want to come here. That's a challenge. And so one of my friends is currently facing that right now where, she knows she's qualified for the job, but, she's not getting any callbacks. Why is that? Well, you got Amazon on your resume. People know that Amazon, recruiters get paid well. And so, it's tough out there. It's just really, really tough to give good advice in this kind of era that we're in of, our community, our TA community being one of the first to let go whenever there's like a mass layoff, but it's really tough. It's, keep your head up, keep on grinding. But, if you're looking for a job, don't just apply. You need to try and find who the recruiter is and try to reach out to them. And so that's my piece of advice that I would give you. And if you don't have a deep network, start networking, start getting involved in community, recruiting community, sourcing community. I would say the sourcing community is probably the most welcoming,
most helpful. Yes.
most welcoming community ever. So,
and may I also add, now that I have the gig economy folks that are starting to tune into my stuff, do delivery. Try delivery, try Uber, try some of these side gigs that you can get involved in. Keep an eye to my channel. I'm going to go into more depth on what those are.
Love that.
A lot of that stuff's going to come out. I'm going to talk about different side hustles, what you can do to really be your own entrepreneur of your own life story. I think, what it comes down to, Mike, and you can agree with this, is you got to keep reinventing yourself. You got to keep growing.
Yeah.
You got to keep learning. You got to keep picking up new skills. What are transferable skills for recruiters? Sales. Could you do sales?
100%. I mean, being a recruiter.
Could you be a data analyst? There's so many things you can do and transition to.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of transferable skills that we have, analytics, program management,
leadership.
There's a lot. Yeah.
Management.
Leadership.
There's a lot of folks who go from a recruiting side of their work into managerial and leadership roles because they understand talent already. They understand the importance of it.
That's right.
Now, the other angle you could also try is human resources. Now, that might not be everybody's cup of tea, but maybe you could transition into human resources. Let me talk about that because, Aaron Lintz is a great example of this. In our last conversation with him, as an example, the man went into helping internal teams to align to their talent internally and matrixing that talent into different places. And he utilized his background as a sourcer creatively to be able to do that. Now, there's a trending hashtag we're going to continue to keep going with, which is hire Aaron. And quite frankly, if you're looking for a job and you see this post, put your info in the comments below on LinkedIn, or if you're on YouTube, put it there. I will immediately jump over and help you. In fact, if you're a recruiter or anyone along that line, if you have quality content that people need to hear about, I'll get you on one of my vlogs. I'll let you make your story be heard.
Let's
I
do it.
think that's part of what we do, right? We're here to help.
100%.
And even if it's just to help you review a resume, I'm totally willing and down to do that. That's what we do. You
Love
know,
it.
we're here to help people, right, Mike?
100%, man. And that's the reason why I started it in the first place, because I wanted the stories to inspire the next great sourcer, the next great recruiter. Because the stories that we tell on Bullions and Brews are meant to be inspirational. They're meant to be uplifting, and they're meant to relate to the struggle that we have and had as sourcers and recruiters when we're coming up in this industry. So
yeah, that's the same in my channel. Like the Recruiting Rockstars channel will continue to have folks like that who are making a difference in talent acquisition.
Yeah.
And HR leaders as well. I'm going to have some of these folks on talking about careers. I'd love to hear from a valid career coach, one that's really good. I won't name names of the ones who are bad, but I will say there are a lot of good ones out there that if you want to be on my show, come on, we'd love to talk to you too. So at the end of the day, I know you've got a hard stop here, but I want to thank you so much for coming on
No,
my
thank
show.
you, Mike. I really appreciate it.
And you could cross post this on your channel if you're comfortable. I'll get you the
Yeah,
I'll get you the feed.
100%.
And
Yeah.
if there's anything else you want to do, any other plugs, anything else you want to say before you go?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, Bullion and Brews every other week, usually on a Thursday, and shout out to my co-hosts Susanna and Carrie. Y'all, I love y'all. The show wouldn't be anything without the both of you. So shout out to you guys, and shout out to you too, Mike. I really am humbled, having you on our show. I wish we could have you on our show sooner. But we'll
2024,
eventually
we're gonna make it happen.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah,
and this conversation is gonna go live on both our channels, it sounds like. So
love it.
We'll get this over to you so you can put this on your feed. I will tag you, and we'll get you some views on your channel too, because you've got some great stuff over there.
Love it.
The insights you have are immensely helpful to many people.
Thank you.
Great job today.
Awesome. Thank you,
run
Mike.
to your next call. You have a good one.
Yeah, I gotta jump on this call. This is
I'm gonna let you run, man.
Yeah.
Hey, take care.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Take care.
Have a good week. Have a good weekend.
You too,
Bye.
man. See ya.